Hello, welcome back. Well, I've got one of those days today where I can't go out of the house because I have deliveries throughout the day. And obviously, sometime between 1 and 8, it's one of those days today. And it's unfortunate because outside, it's really beautiful. We had an alert warning last night to say that the Rhondda River might overflow, and I haven't got time to go down there. I did throw the drone over to have a quick look and it didn't seem that high to me. Great excitement in the house though. Following your advice about getting an electric kettle, I got this one, and it's even got a little dial on it to tell you when it gets warm. I've also had I haven't had it officially yet, but I went online and I had a look at what my bills are so far regarding electric and gas. And to be honest, I was quite surprised. But I'll talk about that maybe in this video or in another video where I talk about the first month of me being back in Wales. So it's a bit of a strange day today, of having to stay indoors and just find something to do. So I've got two bits of furniture that are turning up today, a bookcase and a desk. And it's just unfortunate because it would have been a beautiful day to have gone out and walked the hills. I do have a lot of questions, so what I might do today to fill the time is I'll answer the questions that you've posed to me over the last few weeks. So the eagle-eyed might notice that something's changed. The configuration of the worktop has changed, and that is because there are two plugs where the fridge should be, and they weren't working. So I got somebody in to come and have a look at it, and he followed the junction point and he said, it's these plugs. Well, I didn't even know that there were two plugs there, so that means the kettle's been moved. And what do you think to the new kettle? It certainly boils it up in about 3 minutes as compared to 8 minutes on the hob there. So yes, it's one of those days today where can't go out. I was going to take you into the garden and show you the garden, but I haven't got a front doorbell, and I'm concerned because if I'm in the garden, I'm going to have to keep the garden door closed because it's only been, coming up to 3 weeks that I've been here, and that is too soon, I feel, to let the cats out. They're upstairs sleeping at the moment. They seem to be very energetic during the night, but quiet during the day. So I can't go in the garden because if the parcels come, I don't want to miss them, because I think today might be the last lot of parcels that are coming through. And thank you to each and every one of you that has sent me a parcel through the Amazon wish list. There are quite a few names to mention, but I don't want to mention them just because some parcels have turned up but they haven't got any names on them, so I don't want to say some names and to forget some others. So, well, some parcels I don't know who sent because there was no note with them. So I thought, just to be on the safe side, I'll just say thank you for the gifts. I was going to say thank you for the music as well. Thank you for the gifts. And I think now the house is more or less set. There's just one or two bits that I still need to get, but I'm in no rush. I've got the basics of what you need for a house. Right, let's have a cup of tea and I'll show you my new table. So this is the table. I've become quite an expert with putting things together. I've also got in here some film which will become apparent why when the second half of the order turns up, but I don't think that's for a few weeks. but I'm very excited about that. But they are nice and sturdy. Let me just take that off. Nice and sturdy pieces of furniture. What I'll do is, if anybody is interested, I will put a link in the video description below if YouTube will allow me to do that, and then you can go off and get one for yourself. Now usually when I film, I like to film in one long take, but today it might be a bit itty-bitty because I'm gonna have to get up and down to answer the door, so forgive me before we've even started. Oh, that tastes a lot better. A few days ago, the water here suddenly tasted disgusting. It was like tinny and metallic. And I remember we had this about 30 years ago, so I don't know. There must be a time of the evening where they put the chemicals in. You'd think they do it throughout the night. There must be a time in the evening where they put the chemicals into the water. So, because it's taken 3 days for it to get to half decent. So I'm going to look for a filter. So if you've got any suggestions, tell me below. Right, also I'm not going to mention names when it comes to the questions because there were loads of people basically asking the same question. So this one is, how did you come to be on YouTube? So my YouTube journey started about 15 years ago. My first YouTube channel, after a few years, got shut down, and then I started this one. The reason why it got shut down, I can't remember. I think it might have been to do with music, because in those days they were really strict. These days now, it's a lot more easier. I actually pay for a subscription to have the theme music on and things like that. So it was a lot different back in the early days. But why did I start? It was because I took on an allotment, and I was putting things into the ground, putting in the labels, coming back the next day, and whatever label I put, the foxes pulled it up and threw it all over the place. So I didn't know where the hell I was. Now, Jeff, who used to be on the allotment site with me, he had a very good system when it came to potatoes, because he had the same thing. So he would plant his potatoes in alphabetical order. So anything that starts with A was the first row, then the second and the third. And he told me a story that his grandson, I think it was, he had done all his seeds, he'd put them all into pots and the labels, and his grandson came in one day and said, "There you go, I've collected all the sticks up." And he had taken all the labels out of every single thing that he had sown. So that's why I started it. It was just for me to remember where things were planted. And then it's just progressed. About 6 years ago now, I think it was, I then developed more into the lifestyle stuff, which is what I'm doing now. And there was another question somebody asked was, where do I see the YouTube channel going now that I'm in Wales? And basically the allotment will come back, but it won't be the main focus. It will be a part of what the story is. Now it's more about the story of me coming back to Wales and getting into the village life, and like what we did with Kieran the other day, find it, because I'll be going back there and filming a bit of the musical when it comes out back in March. It's the home garden, the allotment. So the allotment will come back, but it won't be the main feature. There'll still be the walks and everything. So it'll become a bit more like the channel that I've always wanted it to be, because I've loved Rick Van Man's channel for 15 years. I think he started about possibly 18 years ago, and he just puts up there what he wants to put up, and if people want to watch it, they watch it. If they don't, they don't. So that's what I feel. I have now got the channel to a point where I can just put up what I want, and you can decide whether you want to watch it or wait for the next one to come along, a bit like buses. Can I hear a van? Now, back in December, I had a bag of bulbs of daffodils and tulips, and if you remember, I split the bag, and when I came back to Wales back in December, I brought the bulbs with me, and I gave half to a community group and I kept half myself. The community group, I bumped into them last week and they said they've planted them all. So I'll have to find out where they've planted them so we can go and film them in the spring. But I've still got my half, and I'm going to put them in the home garden, in the back garden. But I was thinking the other day when I looked at them, because it's been raining for the past week, when I looked at them I thought these really need to go in. So if it's sunny tomorrow I will put them in then. But a few of the bags have started to become a bit damp. So because I put all the bulbs into the single bags, so I knew what the varieties are. But now I'm thinking, maybe I should just throw them all in one bag and be surprised with the colours that come out. What do you think? Should I just throw them all in together, or keep them as separate varieties? Now, one of the big talking points since I've come back to Wales has been, do I add salt to my food? Quite a lot of you were asking. In all the cooking videos I've seen you do, you don't add salt. Why is that? I grew up with a mother who liked to put a teaspoon of salt into things, and who would boil peas for 45 minutes. Let's just say she wasn't a very good cook. And when I started to cook, I just put literally a rock of Himalayan and pink salt or something like that. Then after a while, that packet finished, and I just forgot to buy more. So I just started to cook without adding salt. And it's just something I've continued to do. I had fish and chips last night from the local fish shop, and I didn't have salt on them. Sometimes, once in a blue moon, like once a year, I'll think I'll have fish and chips with some salt on, but it's not something that I don't know if I'm missing out on the flavour, but it's just something that I haven't done. I do add pepper to things though. I do like a bit of pepper on my salads, on my mashed potatoes, things like that. But salt, no, not interested. Right, I've just found a question here, and there are a handful of questions that I'm not going to answer for personal reasons and to protect other people in the family, because they haven't given their permission to be talked about on the videos. So questions about relationships I'm not going to discuss. I met somebody a few months ago, and a scriptwriter for a very popular radio play, and he sort of opened my eyes to the fact that even the tiniest bit of personal information is opening yourself up to having your identity stolen. So that's why I've sort of scaled back a bit with the stuff that I've said. So stuff about relationships, I'm not going to even go there, because there are other people involved and they haven't asked. So, I haven't asked them, and I wouldn't ask them, because to me, this is like, as much as this is fun, this is work as well. And when you go into work, do you tell everybody in work your business? I don't. In the TV world, in fact, that was another question. What is your job? So I started off in, where did I start off? So I started off in theatre. So I worked in theatre in Cardiff for a while, in a professional theatre group. Then I went to Manchester, went to university. So I've worked in TV, film, but over the last 20 years, online content has become more and more the main sort of job. I have recently thought about going back into film production, and I completed a course the other week, which was one of the reasons why I came back, was to do this course. But my chronic fatigue syndrome hasn't been too good in the last few days. So I'm very much looking forward to, I have a shopping order coming tomorrow, and it's all the old foods, because I find when you move into somewhere, it's just easier just to go for all the convenient stuff. But obviously that's not good for the bodies. So I've felt a bit of the effects of that over the last week. So from tomorrow, we're back on the healthy eating and hopefully to lose a bit of weight, because it's quite funny. I was saying to somebody the other day that I've been so busy over the last 3 weeks. I said to her, I've decided to go back to London just to have a rest. Since I've been in Wales, it just hasn't stopped. I've been busy every single day. So I'm just taking a few days of rest, and in fact the rain has sort of forced it. With the rain coming down, it's a bit like a sign to just slow down, take it easy, get some decent food in you. So yes, healthy eating starts again tomorrow. And talking about healthy eating, there were also a lot of questions about the cooker, about how expensive the cooker will be. So like I've said, I've had my electric bill and my gas bill, and I was quite surprised. But I'll talk more about that. I think I might do a video next week where I'm talking about the first month of being back in Wales. But a lot of people suggested I get a slow cooker. Well, a slow cooker is in the post, but it's a bit slow in arriving, because apparently it won't be here until the second week in February, I think it was. So for some reason, maybe it's on a slow boat from China. So the next lot of questions I'm going to take from my Patreon account. If you didn't know, I've got a Patreon account. So on there, you get to see some extra things. You get to see the videos before they come out to the general public, usually about 2 days before. But I put a post on there saying that I was going to do this, and did anybody have any questions? So let's have a look at what the questions are. Do you see yourself staying where you are, and would you consider going abroad to buy a bit of land because it's cheaper? I can't see myself now moving from, let's say, South Wales. If I was to go anywhere where there was a bit of land, it would be more to the west, more to Carmarthen way. But I've only been here for 3 weeks, and I'm quite happy to stay in this area for at least a year or two and just see what happens. Will you be writing any more books? So back about 2001, I wrote 2 books about the social history of South Wales. So I'll put a link to them. I don't think I've got them on my shelf, but I've got 2 books, and it's all about the history of South Wales and talking to people who in the 90s, they were in their 80s then. So it's about a Wales where there's one story where the district nurse remembers going to deliver a baby and there were no lights in the street because they didn't have them in those days. Or a man who went through the railway tunnel and he got drunk and he dropped his keys. And when he walked out, he discovered he'd walked out of the same entrance that he'd just gone in. So there's a load of stories on there. 1 or 2 of them might be quite difficult to get into because I wrote them as the person spoke. So once you get into the dialect and the way the people speak, then it's quite an enjoyable little read. There's one story there about a bomb that dropped during the 40s, and I think I might go and visit that site in the next few months, because it's only about half a mile away, where these evacuees were sent to the Rhondda valleys to be safe, and a bomb dropped and took out the entire street. And I want to try and find my school teacher was in the house next door that got bombed, and I have an audio cassette tape somewhere of her talking about it. So I'm going to try and find it, and then I'm going to go and visit the site. So am I going to write any more books? Maybe a gardening book. I've got that in my head. But let's just wait and see. Another question is, will you try the no-dig growing in the future? And what is the biggest drawbacks to no-dig? I will try it again. The biggest drawback is just setting it up is the cost, because you have to buy in it's the chicken and eggs situation. The plan is you make your own compost to put onto the ground so that you complete that circle. So you are growing your own food, you take the waste from that food and put it onto a compost bin, and then the compost bin makes compost to go back onto the no-dig. But in the beginning, you have no compost. So unless you know a farmer, you have to buy it in. And I need to find out what the prices are here, because in London, it was about £60 for a ton of soil, plus £10 for it to be delivered. So that is the drawback of the no-dig method. How are you and the cats adapting to small life living? Like I said, the cats, I think, are adapting to it very well. They do go through periods where I change the sofa on the other side of the room. Then they were a bit funny for a few days, but I find if the furniture stays where it is, cats seem to be okay. I'm getting used to the way that the village works. It seems to be not too different to 20 or 30 years ago, but in those days we had half day. So on a Thursday and a Saturday, shops closed about 1 o'clock. What it seems to be now is that they close at round about 1 o'clock every single day. In fact, I noticed the post office, bizarrely, is open till 1 o'clock, closed for their lunch, opened at 2 o'clock, and then they close at 2:30, which doesn't seem worth it. Because I need to go and have my hair cut, but every time I go down, the barber's closed. And I then discovered he then closes for 1 o'clock and doesn't bother to open up. So the convenience stores are open all the time, but on the whole, it is certainly a slower way of living. It is certainly a lot quieter. Obviously, in the morning when the kids are going to school and when people are going off, it's quite busy. It's quite busy in the morning, around about 7 to 8, and then it's nice and quiet for the rest of the day. I was watching one of John Rogers' videos the other day, and he was walking down a London street, and after 60 seconds I had just had to switch it off. I just found the video so noisy that I couldn't concentrate on what he was saying. Everything that John puts out is a fantastic video. And I went back to look at some of my stuff. And the same thing there. It felt really noisy, seeing shots of me going up to Kenty to go and have a sandwich. But at the moment, I'm not in the point where I can sit and watch the videos that I made when I was in London. I think it's a bit too soon yet to sit down to watch them. I had another question asking, do I miss London? And I think, well, it's been 3 weeks. I don't, but there is a tiny part of missing that routine of meeting up with friends for a cup of tea in the morning, then going off to Kenty's in the afternoon to go and have a sandwich, go and see the people in the cafe. So there's a tiny bit, but I've got the videos. I can go and have a look. I've got the pictures, and also they're a phone call away. I'm getting updates about Rusty the cat, who is doing very well, and I've sent the person that's going to feed him now. I've just sent, I think it was a big pack of 88 pouches of food. But don't forget, Rusty does have somewhere to live, so it's not like he's out on the street. He has got a house. So the food he gets on the allotment is more of a treat than anything else. So let's have a look at what other questions I can find that you asked over the last few days. Why do you want to take on an allotment when you've got a home garden? Now, video does tend to make things look a bit bigger. And the garden is quite small. And this is why I'm delaying filming the back garden, because I want to try and find my tape measure. I've got a feeling I might have left it in my shed in London on the plot. So if I can find it, because I know people will ask how big is the actual plot of land that I've got at home, and it is tiny. I might be able to do a few salads, but there'll be no space for things like potatoes, carrots, Brussels sprouts, you know. So I need an allotment for that. And also an allotment is more than just the food. It's the chance to go and meet people, catch up with them, find out what people are up to in the village, you know, find out if there's an event on or something, or just to sit there and have a cup of tea and enjoy the peace and quiet surrounded by nature. So it's far more for me than just growing food. So yes, I will definitely be taking a plot on. Hopefully I'll be able to get one by the spring, but if I don't get one for about a year, then at least I've got the garden in the meantime. One question that came up again and again and again was, do I plan to join a choir? And the short answer is no. And the reason for that is because the choir that I would join is called the Treorchy Male Voice Choir, and they're world famous, and they're currently going on tour in spring or early summer to the US. I think they're going for about 6 weeks. I'm not entirely up to date with their plans. But I know from past experience of when I was in a choir 30 years ago, it is a hell of a commitment. It's like 2 or 3 times a week you get together, and you have to go for a set amount of time before you're then allowed on stage. You can't just turn up on the Tuesday and go and do a concert on the Sunday. You have to sort of serve a 6-month period where you turn up, you do the rehearsals, and then you're allowed on stage. And when you do get to go on stage, very few concerts are done in the area. Like the choir that I'm thinking of, the one that I would go to join, they go and travel all over the country and all over the world. And I just think I'm at a time where I just want to enjoy my little house, the little community, and my plot. And I just don't feel at the moment that I have the commitment to join a choir. And especially if you want to take a plot on, I want to devote myself to my plot, get that sorted, and then maybe consider it. But for the time being, I've got no plans to join a local choir. I've got a question here that asks, have I registered the cats with a local vet? At the time of filming this, I haven't. And that is something that is on the list of things to do. I've also got to update their chips, because their chips are registered to the London address. So if they did get out and somebody scanned them, they'd be thinking these cats have come quite a long way because the London address is still there. So I do need to change that. And that brings me on to fish and chips. I ordered some fish and chips the other night. And as you do, you go through your phone, boop, 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 deliver it to the house, sorted. So after about an hour, I thought, well, the fish and chip shop is only 10 minutes down the road. Where's the food? And I looked at it, and the order had been cancelled. And when I looked at the message from the fish and chip shop, it said, "You must be joking, mate. Sod off." And when I looked at it, my London address had come up as the delivery. So I was trying to order fish and chips to be delivered 300 miles away. And I've ordered some food, which is turning up tomorrow. And I've double checked and I triple checked to make sure the food is actually coming to this house and not my old house. Could you imagine that? that the people in the old house, they wake up tomorrow morning and there's a guy there with a load of bags going, I've got the food's been delivered. So hopefully I've set my phone up. There is still, I don't know how to change it, but there is still one or two things where I'll go and buy something and the London address will come up. I can't seem to figure out how to tell the phone that my address has changed. So I need to keep my wits about me for the next few weeks, just in case I send something to the wrong house. I've had a question asking, would you use your allotment when you get it to grow food for yourself or for other people? I think the whole point of an allotment is to grow your own food. If you've got spare, then give it to somebody else. But with the cost of food, and who knows, maybe the cost of food in the supermarket will continue to rise for the next year or two. So for me, it's all about growing food for myself, and then if there's any spare, then give that away to somebody else. Talking about allotment, somebody else has asked, could you not share an allotment with somebody else? I could, but I can see the problems. There was a woman on one of the old sites that I was on, and she shared with a friend, and I saw then that it just doesn't seem to work. They were having trouble where one of them was putting in seeds, was just throwing the seeds, scattering them, because she liked the wild look, where the other one liked them in straight lines. But then the trouble came where there were some carrots, say, a nice bed of carrots. And one of them would say, I'll come down on Sunday and I'll pick those for my tea. And by the time she'd turn up, the other woman would have got there and taken every single carrot. So, no, I don't think that is an option. I can see a lot of issues with it. And especially if I want to film on the plot. I do like to make my videos. And if somebody else is there, maybe I might have a plan to paint the shed and I've turned up and they've already done it, or maybe I'll paint the shed and then they don't like it and they'll change it. I can see a whole heap of trouble starting, so I would rather have my own plot and just do as I like. Another allotment based question is, what is your criteria for the site that I'm looking for? Is it for the social interaction or to be left alone? Do you want a greenhouse, a polytunnel, a shed? So I think for me it's the interaction, but it's also the ability to go somewhere and have a bit of peace. I would like a shed. A greenhouse, I think for the fact that I've got the back garden here, if I was to get a greenhouse, there is no space there, but I could build something myself. So I'm not interested in having a greenhouse. Yeah, so I'm not interested in having a greenhouse. I'll do something in the back garden if I want to grow some melons and things like that. Can you grow tomatoes in Wales? Yes, you can grow tomatoes in Wales. You can grow them outside, but you don't get as good a crop as if you grow them inside. Now, this is based on my experience from 30 years ago. Who knows? Maybe the climate has changed now and you can grow them outdoors every month of the year. No, I will find that out myself as time goes on. Do you speak Welsh? I can sing Welsh and I can understand bits of it and I can speak certain phrases, but I'm not fluent. It is something I certainly want to improve on. We have the Eisteddfod coming here in June, I think it is, June, July, or maybe even in August in Pontypridd, which is like a cultural music festival. And I am currently searching. I thought there would be more of a song and dance about it, but if you didn't know it was coming, you wouldn't be aware of it by just walking up and down the street. I thought, the local authority would have gone full blazers with it, but not that I can see so far. But I do plan to learn a bit of Welsh now that I'm back in Wales. So I've got a question here. Do you have a fireplace and can you use it? I would imagine there is something there. Ah, there. I would imagine there is something there, but I'm not in the mood to start banging things. I just want to have a nice quiet life for about a year, and then we'll see. What you miss about London, I think we've already discussed that one. Are you a meat eater? Yes. Are you close to Cardiff? I'm about an hour away from Cardiff. Have you noticed a difference in the air quality? Not that I've noticed. I would imagine it probably is a lot better. The one thing that has stood out is just that peace and quiet. I was in bed the other night, and this was with the windows closed. I was in bed the other night, and I could clearly hear an owl from the forest. So maybe in the summer, when the cats are adjusted and I can open the windows a bit more, I'll get the camera out and I'll film. I also want to go for a walk in the night. So I'm trying to work out how to do that with the filming equipment and stuff. So I might have to buy a small little light. Otherwise, it'll just be a black screen with an owl going hoo hoo hoo. So from one of the recent subscribers, I've just discovered your channel. How did you acquire the cats? What is their story? I had them from a shelter, and I had an interview. So they come to the house, they have a look at the house, and they check the place out. And then I went to go and look at them, and I said that I wanted a black cat. So I went there with the view of just having a black cat. And they said, "Oh, we've got these two here. They're sisters, but they're in the hospital part of it." So, because I think it was Topsy had something wrong with her eye at the time. So I went in and I saw these two cats, and they were very timid. And I said, "Oh, yeah, okay. Nothing, there's no immediate connection with these cats, but, they're friendly enough." They were at the back of the cage. They didn't want to come forward. And I said, "Yeah, okay, yeah. What else have you got?" And they went, well, thing is, we've brought you into the hospital section, and we can't really have you walking around the rest of the place, just in case you take something to the other cats. So unfortunately, you can only see the cats in this room. They were the only black cats there. And then I heard of their story, that apparently they'd been in the shelter for 18 months because people apparently don't want black cats because they're concerned that if they go out in the night, they can't be seen. There are more accidents, apparently. And they were found in a school playing yard. I think it was during August, during the 6 weeks break where the kids have off school. And they were found in a box in a schoolyard. And that's all that we know. So their ages are a bit, nobody's quite sure. So they were in the shelter for 18 months. So we think at that point they might have been 2 years old. I've had them a lot longer than I think I've had them. I feel as if I've only had them for 3 or 4 years, but I think it could possibly be 6 years that I've had them. You've spoken about Welsh cakes. Will we see you making them? Yes, one of my deliveries that I'm expecting today is a baking stone. In Wales, you bake certain cakes on this very thick stone that you put on top of the cooker. It is very heavy. So I'm waiting for that. That should be one of the parcels that turns up today. Although I can't eat too many Welsh cakes, because one of the points of coming back to Wales was to go and walk the mountains and to lose a bit of weight. So I came to Wales at 18 stone. And when I checked on the weighing scales about a week ago, I was 18.5 stone. So I think too many Welsh cakes. But I thought, seeing as I've just moved here, that is fine. And in the last few days, I've just noticed it's gone back down to 18 stone 2. So I need to get out there. Once all this furniture turns up, then I'm free to leave. And hopefully it'll turn up and I can get onto the mountain before dark, because I think the rain is due back this afternoon. Have you always lived alone? No. I lived alone in Manchester when I was there for about 3 years. And then I moved closer to university, and then I went to go and live with 2 other people. That was an interesting experience, that was. Then where did I go? I think I then came back to Wales for a bit. And then when I went to London, I have always lived in houses where there are other people, but we have our own space within that house. So the last house I was in, I think there were about 5 other people there, even though you never saw them because I always filmed when they were out. That's why my videos were always filmed in the morning. So it is nice to have my own space. It has taken a while to adjust to it, to be honest. In the first week or 2, I had to actively say to myself, there are other rooms to go into. I found that me and the cats were staying in this room and only the bathroom and the kitchen. And I had to say, don't forget, there's a bedroom upstairs. So it is taking quite a while to get used to having a house and to go in different rooms. But like I said, it's only been 3 weeks. I would imagine it'll probably take about a month or 2 to fully adjust to being here. Somebody's asked, what is the problem with your knee? And I was at Chelsea Flower Show about 5 years ago, and from out of the blue, my left knee gave way. And then about an hour later, my right knee gave way. And then about an hour after that, they both gave way at the same time. And everything went back to normal for a few months. And ever since then, my right knee, sometimes it can give me a bit of pain when I'm walking up a steep slope. And in Wales, everything is on a slope. So I think that's why it's been a bit more painful since I've been here, because the stairs, like if a normal flight of stairs is a bit like that, then in Wales, it's a bit like that. And also, because it is a traditional Welsh miner's cottage, everything is on the slant. I noticed the other day that the door to the bedroom is not actually square. The top of the door does that, which then goes into the, everything fits, but it's a bit of a wonky house. But you get that when you have a house in Wales. Well, that means that Amazon is still due, and with Amazon, a lot of things are going to turn up. My cooking pot is going to turn up. My Hoover. What else? Bulbs. Batteries for the radio. It's all those little odds and sods, those things that you actually forget. What got you into filmmaking? Now, I've spoken about what got me into YouTube, but what got me into filming was I was in my garden, and my next door neighbour was a world champion chrysanthemum grower and a world champion onion grower. I think he grew at one point the biggest onion in the world. So a TV crew came along and they were filming him in the garden, and I'm in the background fussing around in my own garden. So that sparked the interest. Then Songs of Praise, which was a TV show, and Max Boyce, who is a Welsh singer, they came to our school and they did some filming there. I think it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And I was fascinated how we all had to pretend it was 9 o'clock in the morning. And then one of the lights exploded and went all over the place. So that's where my interest started. And then I managed to convince the school, so this was back in the late 80s, I convinced the school to buy a video camera, because they were really expensive in those days. So I used to hire out the camera and keep it for weeks and weeks on end. And I think that showed to my parents that there was an interest and that it wasn't just something that was going to be finished in a few weeks. And then I had a camera bought for me.
Welcome to The Garden Bench, a new gardening program, and we'll be taking all you gardeners back to the basics and showing you step by step what to do in the garden each week.
And then you could see me around this village in the 80s and the 90s, filming every single thing that I saw. And I remember somebody said he must have been born with a camera stuck to his hand, because wherever I turned up, the camera was there and I was filming everything. So I've got thousands of hours of tapes of village life back in the late 80s and the early 90s. There is one tape I'm trying to find, and I know that I haven't got it. But I donated a lot of stuff to the library about 20 years ago. And this tape is the last 24 hours of the bakehouse, where the people in the village would take their bread, and back in the 20s and 30s, they would take their bread there at Christmas. And in order to know that it was their loaf of bread, they would put their own special, fingerprints in. And then the kids would go back on Christmas Day and pick up the bread. So I went to film there on the last day and spent a whole 24 hours with Dick. He was the guy in charge. And I don't have this, but the library has got a copy of it. But because of cutbacks, they don't know where their tapes are. So I'm currently trying to find out where it is. I think we've discovered they could be in a box in an attic somewhere in Porth, which is about 8 miles away. But because they haven't got staff to spend time to go and find it, I'm trying to offer my help to get involved to try and find these tapes. And if we can find them, I've offered to transfer not only my tapes, but whatever tapes they've got, because there's no point in having this history locked in a box somewhere. Put it online for people to see. In one of my videos, the Banksy video, somebody's asked, what does it mean? What does a cwtch mean? CWTCHES, I think that's how you spell it, cwtch, or at least that's how they've spelled it. A cwtch means two things, two completely different things. So if somebody says, oh, I could do with a cwtch, that means could do with a cuddle, could do with a hug. But a cwtch is also the area that's under the stairs. So if you've got something, you no longer put those old boxes under the cwtch. So two completely different meanings for the same word. In fact, I was thinking the other day, I've still got all my gardening tools in the house, and I don't want to put them outside. So I thought I'll put them under the cwtch. Somebody just put a random one in. Have you ever thought about getting a dog? No. I find dogs, my cousin had a dog and that was fine, but I find dogs too demanding. With a cat, you can open the back door, the cat will go out, it'll sort itself out, it'll come back, you can put the food down there when it wants it. Cats are a bit more independent, I feel, than dogs, and that's how I like it. I don't think I would want the responsibility of thinking, oh, got to take this dog out for a walk twice a day. Because when my cousin had a dog, she would take it out once in the morning, once in the afternoon, and maybe once in the evening. I remember we used to walk around this area at about 11:30 in the night, taking the dog out for a walk with a full moon. And I'll show you that when I film those type of videos, hopefully in the next few weeks, because now that the weather has broken, it won't be too long before spring is here. I can hear the squeaking of another van. So I think I've answered all the questions that you've had. If there are any more, put them below and I'll do that on the next Q&A. Right, I better go because he might think that I'm not here and he'll drive off. So I will catch up with you very soon. So until next time, bye for now. Yes, I'm in. Hold on.